Have you ever felt a weight pressing on your chest for no clear reason? Like the very air around you is thick, oppressive, and every breath takes effort? You wake up already tired, like you've been wrestling with something in your sleep. Your heart races with no explanation. And then there's your home, the place that's supposed to bring peace, warmth, comfort. Suddenly it feels strange, off, heavy. You look around and whisper to yourself, something's not right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. What if I told you that you're not imagining it? There are unseen forces, real and active, that cling to the unnoticed corners of your home. Objects you once thought were harmless, decorations you barely remember placing, gifts you accepted without question. They don't just sit there gathering dust. They carry energy, dark, lingering energy that you never welcomed but somehow allowed in. And here's the terrifying part. Some of them are not just there, they're watching, they wait, they feed, they open doors you never meant to open. You might be tempted to brush it off. Maybe you've chalked it up to stress, another bad night, a string of unfortunate events. But deep down, a part of you knows this is something more. There's a spiritual reality many ignore because it's uncomfortable to face, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away. Some things were never meant to be in your home, and until you remove them, they will continue their silent invasion, draining you emotionally, spiritually, even physically. There's a reason you've been feeling anxious in your own room, a reason you wake up at 3 a.m. without explanation, a reason the joy in your home has slowly faded. Let me ask you, have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt cold, even though the heat is on? Have you felt watched, even when you were alone? That's not your imagination. It's a sign, and it's time to stop ignoring the signs. You have more control than you think. The power to guard your heart, your mind, and yes, your home. But you have to be intentional, because whether it's through music, movies, art, or souvenirs, every item you allow in carries more than just its physical form. It carries presence, it carries influence, and it shapes your atmosphere. Words, images, sounds. They're not neutral. They build something within you or break something down. And some of the things inside your home, they've been building a foundation for fear, confusion, and spiritual oppression for far too long. If you've felt it, the heaviness, the dread, the invisible chaos, it's not just a phase, it's a signal, and it's time to act. You don't have to live in that atmosphere any longer. You can cleanse your space, your words, your thoughts. You can reclaim the peace you were meant to have. But it begins by identifying what doesn't belong. The chains that bind us aren't always visible. Sometimes they look like harmless statues. Sometimes they hang as wall art. Sometimes they hide in the playlists you repeat every day. But when you begin to recognize the spiritual weight behind them, you'll never look at these things the same way again. Break every hidden chain. Shut every door you didn't mean to open. Because as long as those doors remain cracked open, the darkness has access. But the moment you rise up and take a stand, everything shifts. Let me say this clearly. If your spirit has been restless, if your sleep has been broken, if you feel tormented, uneasy, or drained by an invisible weight, wake up. This isn't just happening to you. It's happening around you. It's time to rise and clean house. Spiritually, emotionally, physically. Because if you don't take control, something else will. So listen closely. Don't scroll away. Don't brush this off. Because what I'm about to share with you can absolutely change your life. Now let's get real. No fluff. No games. Here's what you need to know. There are specific objects, items that seem innocent, that you must remove immediately. Not because they're ugly, not because they're broken, but because they're carriers. They hold more than just their shape or function. They carry energy, atmosphere, vibes, and in some cases they carry spirits. Yes, you heard that right. Some objects carry a spiritual force, something unseen yet powerful, that can invite darkness into your space. That feeling you get when you pass by an item and your stomach turns? That strange chill when you touch something on a shelf? That recurring nightmare that only began after you brought home that souvenir? It's all connected. These things don't just sit there. They linger. They whisper. They shift the spiritual climate around you. They attract what shouldn't be there. And every moment they remain in your home, they build their influence, especially when they've been involved in the occult. Now let's talk specifics. Like we said before, not everything in your home belongs there. Some items don't just take up space. They bring a presence, a connection to forces you never meant to entertain. And if they've made their way into your home, you may already be feeling the effects, whether you realize it or not. Have you been sensing an invisible heaviness lately? A fear that comes out of nowhere? Waking up in the middle of the night, without any reason, heart pounding, mind racing? The very air in your house might feel different, thicker, heavier, almost like something unseen is clinging to it. You look around, and suddenly the place that once brought you peace feels unfamiliar. Maybe shadows seem to move when they shouldn't. Corners of rooms feel darker than they used to. You catch yourself turning your head, feeling like something, or someone, is watching you, even when you're completely alone. But here's the truth. That's not just your imagination. That's not just a weird phase. Something is there. You see, when you bring certain objects into your house, you're not just bringing in wood, metal, cloth, or stone. You're bringing everything that comes with it, the energy, the intentions behind it, the spiritual residue left by whoever created or used it. If that item was ever involved in spiritual rituals, occult practices, or even dark ceremonies, what was spoken over it stays. That energy doesn't just disappear when the ritual ends. It lingers, it waits, and it seeks out something or someone to attach itself to. Take Ouija boards, for example. So many people treat them like a joke, a party trick, a fun little game. But let me be crystal clear. Ouija boards are never just a game. They are spiritual doorways. Every time someone places their hands on that board and asks, "Is anyone there?" they are doing more than they realize. They are extending an open invitation to the unknown. And not everything that answers has good intentions, but it doesn't stop there. Tarot cards, pendulums, crystal balls, items that have been used for divination or spirit communication outside of divine covering are spiritually dangerous. Why? Because you don't know what you're tapping into. You don't know who or what is listening. You might think you are in control, but the truth, you're not. Every one of these tools is a potential access point, a channel, a microphone to a realm where not all voices mean you well. And once you've opened that door, it's not always easy to shut it again. And it's not just the obvious stuff like occult tools. Some items might seem harmless, just pretty symbols or decorative statues. But many of these were never created for beauty. They were made for worship, for summoning, for rituals, for drawing power from sources that were never meant to be welcomed into your life. Even if you don't believe in their power, that doesn't stop the power from working. Demons don't care whether or not you believe in them. They only care about one thing: access. They look for openings, for cracked doors. And those cracks don't always come through the dramatic, obvious things. Sometimes they come through antiques, market finds, travel souvenirs. You might have picked up something from a second-hand store or a vendor on a trip overseas. It looked beautiful, unique, maybe even spiritual. But you have no idea what it was used for before it landed in your hands. No idea who owned it. No idea what was spoken over it. No idea what it was created to do. And that matters, because some objects aren't just things. They're vessels. They carry energy. And yes, they can carry spiritual presence. And the moment you place them in your home without even realizing it, you may have given that energy permission to exist in your space. Let that sink in for a second. Think about the items you've surrounded yourself with. Think about the ones that make you feel uneasy, the ones that seem to pull your attention, the ones you've thought about getting rid of, but never quite did. Could they be more than just stuff? Could they be holding something you never intended to invite? Because when you open your life, even unknowingly, to these spiritual forces, you are offering space to something that's not meant to be there. And once that space is claimed, it won't give it back without resistance. That uneasy feeling you get when you look at certain objects in your home, don't ignore it. That's not just paranoia. It's not just coincidence. It's your spirit sounding an alarm. It's your inner discernment warning you. Something is not right. You need to trust that feeling. You need to stop brushing it aside, because if you ignore it, the energy will keep growing. It won't fade into the background, it will settle in. It will find ways to make itself comfortable in your home, in your life, in your thoughts. And before long, it begins to drain you, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. This is exactly why so many people feel like they're constantly walking under a cloud of fear, anxiety, and exhaustion. They don't understand why they're waking up tired, even after a full night's sleep. They can't explain the weight pressing on their chest. They keep asking themselves, why do I feel this way? But here's the truth. Something is watching. Something is waiting. Something is feeding, and it's feeding on the very energy that was meant to give you strength. And no matter how long you try to ignore it, it will not leave on its own. The only way to be free from this unseen oppression is to act decisively and boldly. You cannot reason with darkness. You cannot pretend it isn't there and hope it eventually disappears. Darkness thrives in denial. It loves when you dismiss its presence. But the only real solution, you have to remove it. You have to cast it out. You have to take that object, that symbol, that cursed thing, and get it out of your home. Because the longer it stays, the more ground it gains. The longer it lingers, the more comfortable it becomes. And the stronger it gets, the more it will resist leaving. Don't give it more time. Don't hesitate. Don't second guess what your spirit already knows. Some things were never meant to be in your house, and if you don't remove them, they will keep doing what they were created to do: drain you, haunt you, control you. There are things in your home right now that have a history you don't know. Objects that were passed down, bought secondhand, or given to you by people who may have meant well, but those items carried something unseen. Not everything that enters your space is just an object. Some things hold energy. Some things hold emotion. Some things hold spirits. And once they cross that threshold, once they enter your living space, they don't leave on their own. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt like the air got colder? Have you ever sat in the comfort of your own home and felt like something was off? Like someone or something was watching you from just beyond your line of sight? You try to shake it off. You tell yourself it's all in your head, but deep down, you know when something isn't right, because objects aren't neutral. They carry history, they absorb emotion, and sometimes they carry attachments. When you bring something into your home that once belonged to someone else, you also bring in the energy they left behind. If that object was used in darkness, if it was involved in a ritual, a curse, or even just passed through the hands of someone consumed by grief, hatred, or spiritual torment, then that energy stays. It lingers. It waits. It searches. That's why you need to think twice about what you bring into your space. Think about antique stores, thrift shops, estate sales. You walk in and see all these beautiful, time-worn items, ornate lamps, old jewelry, vintage art, aged statues. Every piece looks like it tells a story. But here's the sobering question. What kind of story? Because not every story is beautiful. Not every item has a peaceful past. Some things have been used in dark rituals. Some were present during moments of death, grief, suffering. Some were owned by people whose lives were soaked in trauma, rage, addiction, or torment. And when those people passed on or gave the item away, they didn't just hand over the object. They left an imprint, and that imprint can become a burden in your home. People unknowingly bring cursed objects into their lives, and then they wonder why everything around them begins to fall apart, why peace seems to vanish, why tension builds, why fear grows. The answer may be hiding in plain sight, sitting right there on a shelf, hanging on a wall, or tucked away in a drawer. These objects aren't just decorations, they're doorways. We talked about the hidden energy in second-hand objects, and now let's go even deeper. Because for many people, the spiritual heaviness didn't begin with a ritual or a visible symbol. It began with something small, something ordinary, something they never imagined could carry anything dark. A piece of jewelry, a painting, an old chair, a doll, something so simple, so harmless looking. And yet, the moment it entered their home, things began to change. At first, they shrugged it off. The nightmares, the strange noises at night, the sensation of being watched. Shadows where no shadows should be. A heaviness in the air that couldn't be explained. They thought it was stress. Maybe they were just overtired. Maybe their minds were playing tricks on them. But it wasn't just in their heads. It was real. There are countless stories, true stories, of people who purchased antiques or received old items, only to watch their lives slowly spiral into chaos. Their health begins to decline without explanation. Their finances collapse. Relationships fall apart. Whispers in the dark. Cold spots in rooms that were once warm. An invisible pressure pressing down on their chest like a weight they can't shake. Why? Because some objects are not just things. They're spiritual magnets. They attract energy, sometimes even spiritual beings, and they become anchors for darkness. And this isn't just about old antiques or eerie marketplace finds. It's about anything secondhand. Gifts, heirlooms, hand-me-downs. Just because something was given to you doesn't mean it belongs with you. What if the person who gave it to you had negative energy? What if they carried jealousy, resentment, bitterness, or even a spiritual tie to dark forces? That energy doesn't disappear. It clings. And when you accept that item into your home, you're not just accepting the gift. You're accepting everything that comes with it. Maybe that necklace you received from someone who never celebrated your success. Has it always made you feel uneasy when you wear it? Maybe that ornate frame, passed down from a relative you barely knew, has a chill to it, like the room always gets colder when you pass by. Or perhaps it's that hand-carved statue someone brought you from overseas, a souvenir from a place known for rituals you don't even understand. Now let's talk about something even more unsettling. The things people take from places they never should have touched. Graveyards, abandoned buildings, historic battlefields, sites of tragedy or death. People wander through these places and pocket little items, coins, stones, trinkets, even bones, thinking they found something mysterious or cool. But they don't realize the spiritual significance of those objects. Some items were placed there intentionally, for protection, for mourning, for ritual, and disturbing them has consequences. You don't know the story behind what you've taken. You don't know who it belonged to, and you certainly don't know what spirit might have been tied to it. When you bring those objects into your home, you're not just decorating, you're inviting something to follow you. Something that was never meant to leave the place where it rested. Something that now lingers in your space, searching for a foothold. So now I have to ask you, really ask you, what's in your home that doesn't belong? What item do you own that has always made you feel strange, unsettled? What object carries a weight you've never been able to explain? Maybe it's that old necklace you inherited that makes your skin crawl. Maybe it's a painting you bought at a market, a painting that feels like the eyes follow you at night. Maybe it's that antique rocking chair in the corner that creaks, even when no one is near. Your spirit knows. You've felt it. You've sensed something isn't right. And now, it's time to act. If there's anything in your home that came from someone who lived in spiritual darkness, remove it. If you've been holding on to something given by a person you don't trust, someone whose energy was always off, let it go. If there's a second-hand item, an antique, a relic that makes your home feel heavy or your dreams uneasy, it does not belong. Because if you don't release it, you're giving it permission to stay. And the longer it stays, the deeper it roots itself. The deeper it roots, the harder it will be to break free. And the longer it stays, the stronger its hold becomes. Some things were never meant to be in your hands. Some objects were crafted with a history so dark, so spiritually heavy, that simply owning them links you to something you never intended to connect with. And unless you break that connection, it won't just linger. It will drain you, watch you, tighten its grip on your life day by day. So hear this clearly. Get it out. Now. Because what you allow into your home isn't just decoration. It's not just furniture. It's not just entertainment. It's an open door. The movies you watch, the music you play, the books you read, every piece of content you consume, every sound that echoes through your living room, every image on your screen, it all carries something. Every word has a weight. Every beat has a vibration. Every scene is planting a seed. And whether you realize it or not, some of these things are doing much more than just entertaining you. They're feeding something darker. Have you ever noticed how your mood shifts after watching a certain movie? Ever felt a heaviness in the atmosphere after playing a certain song? Have you ever turned off the TV and felt like something stayed behind? Like the room didn't feel empty anymore? That's not just your imagination. That's not just a mood. That is spiritual influence. You see, some content is intentionally crafted to pull you in, to soften your boundaries, to make darkness feel normal. It desensitizes you, conditions you. You watch something once and it feels shocking. You watch it again and now it just feels like a story. But some stories are more than stories. They are invitations. Think about horror films that glorify possession, shows that treat demonic rituals like fun, books that make darkness look exciting, powerful, desirable. These things are not harmless entertainment. They are open doors. And every time you sit down and allow those scenes, those symbols, those sounds into your home, you're saying, "This is welcome here." And let me tell you, spiritual forces don't need much. They don't need a formal invitation. They just need permission, a sliver of agreement. And once that door is cracked open, they enter. Let's talk about music, because this one goes deeper than most people think. Some of you are repeating powerful words without realizing it. You're singing along to songs with lyrics soaked in pain, rage, lust, or even curses, and you think it's just catchy. But those words matter. Those chants, those hooks, those repeated phrases, they're not innocent. Some songs were written under spiritual influence. Some artists openly admit it. And when you press play, when you repeat those lyrics over and over, you are creating an atmosphere. You are shaping the energy of your home, of your heart. And you've felt it, haven't you? That one song that always stirs something inside. The one that makes your chest feel heavy. The one that brings back depression or memories you thought you buried. Or maybe it's the song that triggers anger, real, burning anger, for no reason at all. You hit play again and again and again, not realizing you're not just listening, you're feeding something that grows stronger every time the track loops. And it's not just music, books too. There are stories out there filled with darkness, filled with rituals, with spells, with invocations dressed up as fiction. But some of those fictional words were taken from real practices, real curses, real ceremonies. You may have books on your shelf right now that are keeping darkness in your home. Maybe it's a book that teaches you how to summon something. Maybe it's a manifestation guide that draws power from sources outside of divine authority. Or maybe it's something you picked up out of curiosity. But understand this: curiosity opens doors. It always starts small, just a video, just a song, just a book. You're only watching, you're only listening, you're only reading. But then something begins to shift, subtly, quietly. Your thoughts change, your emotions shift. The atmosphere in your home starts to feel different because what you consume consumes you. It doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, deliberate, like a fog rolling in under your door, barely noticeable until it fills every room. And then there's the content people love to brush off. The dark jokes, the sarcastic memes, the shows that mock the spiritual realm, the cartoons and comedies that turn demons into punchlines. It's all harmless, right? Wrong. Let me be clear. Demons are not laughing. They are watching, they are waiting. Because the moment you stop taking them seriously is the moment you let your guard down. And that's all they need. You think it's just a trend, just a viral video, just a funny movie. But meanwhile, your mind is slowly being reshaped, your discernment dulled. The things that used to make you uncomfortable now seem normal, even entertaining. That's how darkness works. It's subtle, strategic. It doesn't storm through the front door with alarms blaring. It sneaks in, quietly, until it's everywhere. So ask yourself, what have you been allowing into your home? What have you watched that left you feeling off? What songs have you played that changed the energy of the room? What books are sitting on your shelf? Books written with intentions and influences you don't even understand. Because what you allow in determines what stays. And if you've been experiencing things that you can't explain, restless nights, disturbed sleep, a heavy spirit, a mind clouded with anxiety or confusion, look closely at what you've been feeding your soul. But here's the good news. You can break it. You don't have to keep living like this. You don't have to tolerate these invisible intruders. You can reclaim your space. You can cleanse your atmosphere. You can shut the door and say, not here, not anymore. But it requires action. You have to be willing, truly willing, to make the hard decisions, willing to delete that playlist that always leaves you feeling low, willing to turn off that show that glorifies darkness, willing to remove that book from your shelf, even if it cost money, even if it was a gift, willing to say, enough, because if you don't, it won't stop. It will keep creeping in. It will keep expanding its territory. And one day you'll look around and realize you're no longer in control. Something else is. What you allow in becomes part of your home, part of your mind, part of your spirit. So choose wisely, because the things you think are small, the things you dismiss as meaningless, they're shaping you more than you realize. And if you don't take control, something else will. Some doors aren't opened with spells or rituals. Some are opened with emotion, with the very atmosphere you cultivate. Let me ask you, have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the tension in the air? Ever noticed how a single argument can leave a heaviness that lingers long after the shouting ends? How sadness, bitterness, anger seem to soak into the walls? That's not just psychological. That is spiritual. Darkness feeds on negativity. It thrives in chaos. It grows in conflict. And if your home is constantly filled with these emotions, constant fighting, buried resentment, unspoken bitterness, then whether you realize it or not, you're building a sanctuary. But not for peace, not for God. You're building a space where darkness feels welcome, where spirits don't just visit, they stay, they feed, they grow stronger. Where evil takes root, it rarely announces itself. It doesn't barge in through the front door. It grows quietly in the corners. It seeps into the walls. It feeds on what you allow. Spirits, especially demonic ones, don't just appear at random. They are drawn in, attracted. They gravitate toward atmospheres that mirror their nature. And if your home is constantly filled with fear, rage, jealousy, bitterness, depression, or never-ending grief, then you're not just dealing with emotions, you're building a spiritual habitat. That's where they feel comfortable. That's where they want to stay. This is why some people feel like they're trapped in an invisible loop. Anger that never fades, sadness that keeps returning, peace that never fully arrives. It's not just a bad week. It's not just your personality. It's not bad luck. It's spiritual contamination. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time your home felt truly peaceful? Not quiet, not empty, but light, warm, safe. When was the last time you walked through your front door and felt like you were stepping into a sanctuary, not a war zone? Or have you grown so used to the tension, so used to the anxiety, so used to that invisible weight pressing down on you that you've stopped questioning it? Because here's the truth. Your home is supposed to be a refuge, a place of rest, a place where your spirit can breathe. But for too many people, it's become a battleground, a place where arguments echo louder than prayers, where bitterness lingers longer than laughter, where conflict has become routine, expected. And every toxic argument, every angry outburst, every hateful word spoken within those four walls, it all adds up. It creates an atmosphere, it opens doors, and darkness settles in. Have you ever noticed how some households fight over the same things year after year, generation after generation? The same themes, the same pain, the same patterns, on repeat, like a broken record. That's not coincidence. That's a stronghold. A stronghold is more than just a bad habit. It's an invisible grip, tight and unrelenting. It's a spiritual weight that keeps behaviors, emotions, and toxic cycles locked in place. And the more you let those patterns continue, the stronger that grip becomes. Some of you are battling things that didn't even start with you. This has been going on for decades. Patterns of rage, addiction, betrayal, abuse, passed down like family heirlooms, unspoken, unchallenged, unbroken. But here's what you must understand. If you don't break it, it will not stop. You cannot let your home become a breeding ground for darkness. You cannot allow spirits of strife, depression, and destruction to set up camp in your space. Because if they feel welcome, they will stay. They will feed. And eventually, they will take more than you ever imagined. So what can you do? How do you shift the atmosphere in your home? First, you must recognize what's happening. Step back and look at the patterns. The same arguments over and over again. The tension that never leaves. The heaviness that hangs in the air, like something watching. It's not just emotion. It's not just stress. It's spiritual. And once you see it, you must take authority over it. Not just by trying to be more positive. Not just by hoping it goes away. But by actively confronting it, by tearing down every stronghold that's been given a place in your home intentionally. This means guarding what energy you allow in. It means cutting off arguments before they spiral into chaos. It means choosing not to let your tongue be a weapon, refusing to speak words of hate, refusing to declare destruction, refusing to curse, even jokingly, because your words have power. Every word carries weight. Every outburst leaves a mark, and every curse, even one spoken in anger or sarcasm, creates an opening. Some of you need to walk through your home, not just physically, but spiritually, and begin cleansing every room. You need to cancel every word of bitterness that's been spoken, break every agreement with negativity. Repent for every moment of hatred, cruelty, or fear that has taken root in your space. Because your home matters. Your atmosphere matters. And if you don't claim it, someone else will. Darkness doesn't need much. Sometimes all it needs is what you're still holding on to. If you've been clinging to unforgiveness, to bitterness, to that slow-burning resentment that simmers just beneath the surface, then hear this. It's not just hurting you. It's feeding something, because whatever you hold on to holds on to you, and until you release it, until you say enough, it will keep poisoning the atmosphere of your home. Your home was never meant to be a nest for chaos. It was never meant to echo with fear, to tremble under anger, to sit heavy with unresolved pain. Your home was created to be a dwelling place of peace, a sanctuary, a refuge. But let me tell you, peace doesn't just happen. Peace is not passive. Peace is something you have to fight for. You have to protect it like a treasure. You have to guard it like a soldier guards a gate. Because if you don't, if you let it slip through your fingers, if you let the poison stay unchecked, something else will take over, and what comes in next won't be passive. It won't be peaceful. It will be there to steal, kill, and destroy everything good in your life. And once that door is fully open, it doesn't shut easily. That's why now, not later, is the time to take control. Shift the atmosphere in your home. Refuse to let negativity grow roots in your living room. Tear up the soil where bitterness has been planted. Evict every spiritual squatter that's been feeding off your pain. Speak life. Speak peace. Speak light into every corner of your home. Because if you're not speaking into your home, something else is. And you might not like what it has to say. And here's where it gets even more real. Some of you have objects in your home right now that you haven't even thought twice about. Things that have been sitting there for years. Books on a shelf, art on the wall, trinkets in a drawer, jewelry in a box. You walk past them every day. You clean around them. You decorate with them. But you've never stopped to ask, what do these things carry? Because not every object is just an object. Not every decoration is just decorative. Some of them are doorways, portals. The spiritual world is not silent about this. Symbols carry power. Images carry presence. And what you surround yourself with shapes the atmosphere of your home, even if you don't realize it. Some of you unknowingly invited darkness into your space, not with a ritual, not with a chant, but with a purchase. Certain designs, certain statues, certain aesthetic pieces hold deep spiritual meaning. Not cultural, not artistic, spiritual. You saw something that looked unique. Maybe it had ancient vibes. Maybe it felt mysterious, exotic, powerful. Maybe you were just curious. But do you know where it came from? Do you know what it was made for? Do you know what was spoken over it before it ever came into your hands? Some objects are tied to rituals, to curses, to spells, to practices meant to summon spirits. And once they've been placed in your home, they're not just collecting dust. They're working, they're influencing, they're attracting. That's why you hear footsteps when no one's walking. That's why the air feels heavy in one specific room. That's why the nightmares started after that trip. That purchase, that gift, you can feel it. You may not be able to explain it. But deep down, you know something shifted. This is not superstition. This is spiritual law. Let me give you a real example. There are ancient symbols, some that have been used in occult practices for centuries, embedded into our everyday world. They're hidden in fashion, masked in jewelry, printed on posters, carved into home decor, etched into popular logos, and people wear them, hang them, display them, because they look cool, because it's just a trend, because everyone's doing it. But these symbols weren't created to be trendy. They were created to channel power, and that power was never innocent. Demonic symbols are designed to open gateways, to mark territory, to invite alignment with spiritual forces that do not serve God. And whether you understand it or not, ignorance is not protection. Spirits don't wait for permission slips. They wait for access. And when you give them a symbol, a point of agreement, they take that as an open door. You thought it was just art, just style, just a gift. But you didn't know what it carried. These symbols, these objects, weren't just bought or brought into your life by accident. When you keep them in your home, when you wear them, when you display them, you are unknowingly giving permission for something to linger, something that doesn't belong, something that is here to mark territory. Some things were designed for one purpose, to create a bond between the physical world and the spiritual one. And when you bring these things into your space, when you accept them into your life, you don't just accept their appearance, you accept everything they carry with them. Take a moment to think. What do you own that's been touched by darkness? What objects, what symbols have you invited into your life without understanding their true meaning? Some of these things were never meant to be displayed in your home. They were used for rituals, for spiritual binding. Some were intentionally placed in locations to trap spirits. Some objects have been dedicated to dark forces with the sole purpose of bringing a curse, and when you take them in, you bring the curse with you. People have gone on trips, come home with trinkets from faraway places, from ancient ruins, from markets filled with objects that seem innocuous on the surface, but were never meant to be taken. They think it's just a piece of history. But history isn't the only thing attached to that object. There are spirits attached to it, dark energies, ancient curses. Some of these objects bring back more than a souvenir. They bring back misfortune, oppression, even illness. There are stories of people who purchased second-hand furniture, second-hand jewelry, only to realize too late that the previous owners had dabbled in things they should never have touched. And when they took possession of those things, they unknowingly took possession of everything attached to them. It gets even darker. Some objects are not just material. They're spiritual gateways. Objects intentionally used to connect the physical realm with the spiritual one. Certain mirrors, certain dolls, certain statues. These aren't just decorations. They are tools. Tools for summoning. Tools for binding. Tools for keeping spirits locked in a space. Have you ever noticed something strange about certain objects? Maybe it's a mirror that seems to reflect something that isn't there. Maybe a doll that moves, just a little bit, when no one is looking. Maybe a statue that gives you an uneasy feeling every time you pass by it. Maybe it's an old object you bought at a flea market, thinking it was simply vintage or charming. These are not just stories. These are signs. Signs that something was invited into your space, and it was never invited in with good intentions. Now, let me ask you clearly. What's in your home that shouldn't be there? What symbols are you hanging on your walls? What objects have you purchased without considering their past? What second-hand items did you bring into your space without questioning who owned them and what they were involved with? If you're experiencing unexplained fear, spiritual oppression, disturbances in the night, there's a reason. There is something in your home that shouldn't be there. Something that has made itself at home, and it must go. You cannot keep objects that carry darkness and expect to live in peace. You cannot hold on to symbols that represent the enemy and expect your home to be a sanctuary. It's time to remove them. Get them out. Do not sell them. Do not pass them off to someone else. Destroy them. You must break the connection, because as long as they remain, they will continue to serve as an open invitation, an invitation for something that has only one mission: to destroy. Some of you have unknowingly invited destruction into your home. Some things were given to you under false pretenses, wrapped in a disguise. Maybe it was a gift. Maybe it was a trend. Maybe it was something you thought was just cool, just harmless. But now you know. You know that some things were never meant to be touched, never meant to come into your home. So the question remains, will you ignore this? Will you continue to keep what you've already invited in? Or will you take action? Because you have a choice now. And with that choice comes the power to change the atmosphere, to cleanse your space, to shut the door on the enemy and reclaim your peace. Just a joke. They think it's harmless, but they don't realize they've made an agreement that opens the door to something dark. The enemy doesn't need much to get in, just an invitation, just a slip of the tongue, and words are powerful. What you say shapes what happens next. If you're constantly speaking things into existence, things you don't want, you're inviting them in. It doesn't matter if you meant it or not. Every word you speak carries weight. Every phrase, every sentence can either build or destroy, bring peace or chaos. Some homes are filled with chaos because of words, not because of bad luck. Not because of circumstances, but because of the words that have been spoken over and over again. Words of anger, of doubt, of destruction. And the more those words are spoken, the more they take root. Have you ever noticed the phrases that get repeated in families? How negativity seems to pass down, generation after generation, like an unbroken curse. How families say things like, "We always struggle. Nothing good ever happens to us. I'll never get out of this mess." And then they wonder why their lives never change. It's because those words create something. Spirits respond to what you speak. Darkness listens. And if you are constantly declaring defeat, despair, and failure, you are giving those things power. You are breathing life into them, and they will manifest in your life. Think about the last argument you had. What words were spoken? What did you unleash into the atmosphere of your home? Did you speak peace, or did you let loose words that stirred, chaos that left wounds, that lingered long after the fight ended? Because here's the thing, words don't just disappear, they stay. They attach themselves to places, to people, to situations. Some of you are living under the weight of curses spoken over you. Maybe it was something a parent said. Maybe it was something a teacher said. Maybe it was something a friend said in anger. But those words, whether intended or not, took root. Now they play on repeat in your mind. You'll never be good enough. You'll always be alone. You'll never succeed. And the more you hear it, the more you believe it. The more you believe it, the more it becomes your reality, because words have the power to shape the world around us. It's not just what you say about yourself, though. It's what you say about others. If you are constantly speaking negativity over your spouse, your children, your friends, you are releasing something into their lives. You are speaking things into existence that were never meant to be there. You are inviting them into their hearts and minds. And once those words are planted, it's like seeds. They begin to grow, to bear fruit. And then there are the things we joke about. Some people think it's funny to joke about death, about destruction, about demonic things. They don't realize that their words are still agreements, even if spoken in jest. They don't realize they're giving access to something dark. How many times have you heard someone say, "I swear I'm cursed. I'd sell my soul for that. I feel like I'm being haunted." They think they're joking, but those words are still powerful, and they have consequences. The enemy doesn't care if you were joking. He only cares that you said it. And once those words are out, they act as invitations. You ever wonder why people who constantly speak death experience it? Why those who always talk about failure seem to live in it? Why those who believe they're stuck never seem to move forward? It's because what you speak shapes your reality. Your words create your world. But here's the good news. You can break it. You can cancel every negative word you've ever spoken. You can revoke the power of every curse, every harmful phrase, every destructive sentence that's been hanging over your life. It starts with being aware. Watch what you say. Think before you speak. Don't just throw out words without considering what they are building. If you wouldn't want something to happen, don't speak it. If you've spoken negative things over yourself, over your home, over your family, break it now. Speak life where you once spoke death. Speak hope where you once spoke despair. Speak blessings where you once spoke curses. Because words don't just disappear. They either build or they destroy. And if you've been experiencing oppression, heaviness, fear, start by looking at what's been spoken. Start by canceling the words that have been keeping you bound. Because your words can either open doors for darkness or they can close them forever. The choice is yours. Music, movies, books, and media, what you consume has more power over your life than you realize. What you watch, what you listen to, what you read, it all shapes you in ways you might not even recognize. Some people wonder why they feel restless, why their mind is filled with anxiety, why they constantly struggle with dark thoughts. Yet they never stop to consider what they are feeding their spirit. Because make no mistake, you are feeding something. Every song, every movie, every book carries a spirit with it. Some things were created to inspire, to uplift, to encourage. Others were created to plant seeds of fear, lust, anger, and despair. And if you are constantly consuming darkness, don't be surprised when you feel its effects in your life. Think about it. Have you ever listened to a song that completely shifted your mood, one that made you feel powerful, energized, ready to take on the world? And on the other hand, have you ever listened to something that left you feeling drained, heavy, even depressed? That's not an accident. That's influence. Music is not just sound. It's a force. It carries something beyond words, beyond melody. It has the ability to open doors in your soul without you even realizing it. Some music carries lyrics filled with darkness, songs that glorify death, destruction, addiction, and immorality. People sing along without even thinking, repeating words over and over again that were never meant to be spoken over their lives. And the more they listen, the more they repeat, the more those words become reality. You see, words have power, but when you add music to them, they become even stronger. Music is a form of meditation. It imprints messages directly into your mind, into your spirit. And if those messages are filled with darkness, what do you think they are doing to you? And it's not just music, movies, TV shows, books. What you expose yourself to matters. Some people fill their minds with horror, with violence, with content that glorifies the demonic, and then they wonder why they struggle with fear. Why? Their dreams are filled with nightmares. Why they feel uneasy in their own homes. Let me tell you something. Some movies are not just movies. Some books are not just stories. They are created with an agenda. They introduce ideas, images, and influences that can take root in your life. There are films that glorify the occult, that showcase rituals, that display demonic imagery not as fiction, but as reality. And people watch them, thinking it's just entertainment, without realizing they are opening themselves up. Some books go beyond storytelling. They carry real knowledge of dark practices, real incantations, real connections to things people should never be involved with. And yet, people read them, absorbing every word, unaware that they are allowing something into their minds that was meant to deceive, to mislead, to ensnare. And then there's social media. What are you feeding yourself every day? What voices are speaking into your life? What messages are constantly shaping your thoughts? Some people spend hours scrolling through negativity, content filled with anger, division, hate, fear, and they wonder why they feel anxious all the time, why they feel like life is hopeless. It's because what you consume becomes your reality. The truth is, your spirit is like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you plant darkness, don't be surprised when you harvest fear, depression, and chaos. If you plant light, you will reap peace, strength, and clarity. But you have to be intentional. You have to take control over what you allow into your life. Some people need to go through their playlists and delete the music that's been poisoning their spirit. Some need to stop watching content that glorifies evil. Some need to break free from books that were never meant to be read, because what you feed will grow. And if you've been feeling lost, confused, heavy, it's time to take a hard look at what you've been consuming. It's time to remove the things that have been feeding darkness in your life, because as long as they stay, they will continue to influence you. They will continue to shape your thoughts, your emotions, your reality. And the longer you let them in, the harder they are to remove. So take action now. Cleanse your mind. Cleanse your spirit. Remove what does not belong. Because your life is too valuable to be controlled by what was never meant to be a part of you.